Hello and welcome to round 8 of the GB4 Championship, once again from Donington Park here. It's changeable conditions compared to yesterday. We had enjoyed the bright sunshine of a May day, but the double coat is back on. We've got the umbrellas at the ready, wet tyres are on the cars, but we're looking forward to another good day of racing. 2 races coming to you today. We have round 8 and round 9. Round 8 coming up very shortly. We're going to be building up to that in just a moment. But before we do, let's have a look back at some of the highlights from round 7 yesterday at the sunshine here at Donington Park.
Highlights from round 7 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. It was an excellent start from pole sitter Linus Granfors. Not a great one though from the other driver on the front row, being Brandon McGlade. He was under pressure from McNeely into the first turn, but was able to fend him off with a move straight around the outside at Redgate. Very, very close indeed between the lot of them. Unfortunately, the big talking point in the first lap was this for Palmowski, who would take an awful lot of those curbs, and it would make the car's rear suspension break, and unfortunately she'd retire from the race. Brandon Templeton making a move down the inside of Finn Harrison at the first corner. That would not be the only time they would battle during proceedings of the 7th round of the championship. Meanwhile, Marcus Lucio was trying to find his way past a good defensive drive from Harry Burgoyne Jr. until that moment. They're just running out a little bit wide for Burgoyne Jr., opening opportunity for Lucio to come through. There is another move then, Finn Harrison working his way down the inside and moving his way up the order. Meanwhile, the battling would happen behind as Wilson would make the move on Templeton, opening the door for Baxter to fire his way past the pair of them, moving his way up to 8th position. The race lead though, it was all about Granfors coming across the line to take victory for the 4th consecutive time this season, leading over McCacken and McNeely. A brilliant drive though from him, the championship leader. Again, a superb performance from Granfors, who would take his 4th consecutive victory, dominating thus far this season. McCacken behind in 2nd place with McNeely in 3rd. Lucio up to 4th position with Harry Burgoyne Jr. in 5th. Grant, Harrison, Baxter, Wilson and Templeton would round out the top 10.
Been a bit of chopping and changing in terms of the championship standings. It is still Linus Granfors who leads the field on 169 points. Still 2nd place is Harry Burgoyne Jr. on 139 points, but a change for 3rd and 4th. 3rd place now, Brandon McGlade, 118 points, being jumped up by, unfortunately, the DNF from Alicia, who is now 4th, 104 points. Then Brandon Templeton 5th, Callum Baxter 6th, Marcus Lucio makes his way up to 7th and overtakes Liam Wilson, who's now down to 8th. Chloe Grant in 9th, and rounding out the top 10 is Finn Harrison as he makes his way back up the field. Max, dramatic race, a lot of drama in that race. Of course, we saw Alicia, we'll touch on her a little bit later, but also great racing at the front of the field. Sets up nicely for the rest of the weekend, but also it's good to see that the championship is still pretty hot at this early stage in the season.
Yeah, it's really, really exciting. You know, we're effectively round 3. 3rd second we've been to, so it's quite to see it this close still. It is extremely exciting, and it shows that the consistency, if you just keep getting those results in. I know Harry would have been disappointed with yesterday, but still, it's good points, another big points haul. You know, getting those points again, it all adds up. So he's still 2nd in the championship. He's still within touching distance of Granfors, you know, if anything happens.
Yeah, and also we've got, as we mentioned, the changeable conditions. You can probably see in the back of shot that the British GTs are out there on wet tyres. I've got the double coat back on. I was hoping to keep that in my car until the end of the year, but no, back out again. I'm freezing. But it's not quite as cold as it once was at Silverstone. But looking back to Silverstone, someone that really stood out as someone who came forward was Marcus Lucio. He obviously got that podium for the first time at Silverstone, and then another P4 yesterday. So Marcus, we know he can drive in the wet as well. He'll be looking for a good result today, I'm sure.
Yeah, he will, starting 2nd on the grid, so it's a good opportunity. I don't think he's driven Donington in the wet yet, so what a time to have your first lap there to learn, you know, when you're starting 2nd on the grid. But I think a lot of the drivers are in the same boat here. It's going to be very challenging, and that's going to make it very exciting for viewers to watch. You know, coming through Cranes on lap 1, who's going to do it for that, who's going to lift, you know, what's going to happen there.
Yeah. Well, a moment ago we touched on the championship standings, and it was Brandon McGlade that overtook Alicia Palmowski, owing to Palmowski's DNF, or not classified yesterday. She had an issue, but let's hear a bit more about what happened from her earlier this morning with Naomi Newman.
So Alicia, you had a really tough race yesterday. Do you want to explain what happened to her?
Yeah, sure. So obviously not the race one that we wanted yesterday. Quite a tricky qualifying yesterday morning as well. We've been struggling quite a bit throughout the testing and yesterday's qualifying session with the setup of the car. It became quite understeery all of a sudden, and throughout testing we had a few oil pressure issues as well. So quite a lot of gremlins for the team, but Elite Motorsport have done a fantastic job. They were working until like 2:30 a.m. in the morning one of the other nights to get it all sorted for me. So the car was feeling good going into race one. We'd made a positive setup change, so we were all happy. But then unfortunately, after the race start, I decided to go up in the inside of Callum Baxter, I think it was, into the chicane. And as I braked to go down the gears, I got stuck in 6th gear, and it just would not go down the gears. So as a result of that, I went in too fast into the chicane, clobbered the curbs, which I think most people think that I got suspension damage as a result of that. But it wasn't actually the issue, it was the gear that I was stuck in prior to the chicane. So I had to bring it into the pits, and I lost 5 laps of the race while the team sorted it. They fixed it as I went back out and just tested really. Obviously 5 laps down I wasn't going to get anything, but just to check that the car was okay and the setup change was positive, which we confirmed, but obviously nothing we could do from that point, so big shame, but we should have a better day today, fingers crossed.
And what are you hoping for today? Obviously there's a bit of rain, a lot more chances for a bit more chaos. How are you looking forward to this race?
Absolutely, I'm seeing it as a big opportunity for myself and for everybody really. I don't know what testing other people have had around here in the wet. I know my teammate Finn's had quite a bit of testing here in the wet, whereas myself I haven't done anything in the single seater in the wet here. So it's very much going to be a big learning curve for me, and it's all about who can explore and experiment and find that grip the quickest. So I think it's a great chance. We're starting 6th on the 3rd row of the grid, so we're in the fight, we're in that top few. So I'm sure we can give it a good go, and fingers crossed we can salvage some good championship points after yesterday.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Alicia.
Thank you.
So not the weekend that Alicia palmowski and the Elite Motorsport team were looking for as a whole so far. We just heard from Alicia, she was saying that the Elite Motorsport team just lost their way a little bit in terms of the car setup and testing, and they were on a bit the back foot for qualifying 6th and 7th for Harrison and palmowski respectively in race 1. Of course, this second race, the grid is set by their second fastest lap time from qualifying, so palmowski actually gets moved up 1 space. She's starting in 6th place in this race coming up, round 8 of the championship. Max, Alicia's unfortunate incident yesterday, we heard from her just then that unfortunately when she was going up the inside into the Fogger CS's, car just wouldn't quite go down the gears and end up being stuck in 6th, which meant she had to come into the pits. You know, why would not being able to change down the gears cause something like that to happen?
Well, when you actually come down the gear, they call it like engine braking, actually using the gear changes to slow the car down.
Yeah.
So it is critical when you're braking that much on the limit to be able to use the gear changes to slow you down to make the corner. I think unfortunately for her, not only did that happen, and then meant she ran wide at a corner you really don't want to do that, and then she hit the curbs at completely the wrong angle we saw on the slow-mo. You know, like sometimes if you skim it while you've got load on, it's not too bad, but unfortunately the angle she hit it, it made the car go up and come down. So silver lining is there wasn't more damage than there could have been. Yeah,
exactly. And unfortunately that meant that she was down the back of the field. But Alicia is one of the newer drivers this championship, moving up from Ginetta Juniors last year. A new driver to racing generally is Dan Hickey, who races for the Forset Motorsport team. We caught up with him at the pre-season. Let's hear from him.
Tell us about your experiences before in the car.
So we've done some testing last year in GB4, and I also competed in the last round at Donington, just to gain some experience for this year.
Outside of racing, what do you do?
I like watching football, motorsports, driving, basically anything to do with driving, anything like that. Yeah.
Proudest moment in your career so far? I know it's a tough one.
Probably that last race last year. We got a top 10 finish in the last race, so that was I was really pleased with that.
What's your greatest strength as a driver?
Probably feedback with engineers. I think I'm quite good at taking on feedback and sort of learning from my engineer.
What's your biggest weakness?
Probably managing tyres, which is what we'll probably be looking to improve on this year.
What have you learnt from racing at Donington at the end of last season?
Race starts is a big thing. So obviously the 3 races across the weekend. So learning how to get off the line, stay out of trouble, which I didn't manage to do, and also adapting to like wet and dry conditions.
What do you think the biggest thing that you're going to be working on throughout the whole season is?
Probably, like I said, managing tyres throughout the race, bring the tyres in faster in a better window, and also kind of what we were working on at Donington last year in the changeable conditions, sort of getting better at that.
What does a good year look like for you?
Well, obviously winning the championship would be a good year for anyone, but we're looking at just sort of being up there, sort of trying to challenge for most races.
I asked him as well, how do you think you're going to do against your teammate?
Well, Jack looks very, very good so far, so it'll be tough. It'll be a good competition, I think.
Good to hear from Dan Hickey there. Dan's first season in car racing. He joined us briefly last year for a round in the GB4 Championship, but we talk a lot about the GB4 Championship being a building championship, a learning championship for drivers, often first out of karts or their first foray into single-seaters. For some drivers, it's even their first foray into racing, but it's someone coming into racing, that green like Dan Hickey, he's going to have a lot to learn, and I think he's doing a good job considering his relative lack of experience for some of the drivers who have been racing for potentially even 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. Although this is, an entry level, it's that first step on the ladder to Formula One, still people will be coming into this from, years of karting, looking at Alicia, for example, European karting champion, they've got massive background of racing behind them, and then they come into this. So for this to be your first entry, it's still difficult. It's just because it's the first step on the ladder doesn't mean it's particularly easier. It's still just as hard. So to be trying to learn everything, that guys have learned from years of karting and then come into this, it's difficult. But yesterday he had a great race, with two other cars battling all the way through it, and he showed some quite good racecraft. Bearing in mind he's never done karting before.
Yeah, it's good to see Hickey learning as we go, and I'm sure he'll move up the field, especially with Linus Granfors. Joel is his older brother, who's in GB4. Linus, his teammate, will be helping him improve through the season. You mentioned Marcus Luzio with a good European karting career. Another one of our drivers who's come from karting is Brandon Templeton. Let's hear what he had to say when we caught up with him earlier on this season.
So I started karting when I was 11, and I started in Mini X30, and I slowly progressed my way through the ranks, juniors and seniors, and that's what I did. And then I stopped for GCSEs for 1 year to focus on my exams. And then here I am now.
Outside of racing, what do you do?
I like spending time with my friends, and I also like playing video games too. But I like to try stay off the gadgets.
What's the proudest moment of your career so far?
My proudest moment was probably in Mini X30 when I just started racing. I won the 60th anniversary Bolton Kart Club race, and that was my highlight.
What's the greatest strength of you as a driver?
My greatest strength is that I think I stay calm under pressure, and that's what I like to focus on.
Greatest weakness?
Greatest weakness? No weakness. All right.
So what are your hopes for this season?
Well, I'm just here to learn, and obviously I'm here to do my best, but main thing is to enjoy it and to learn as much as possible.
What would a good year look like for you?
Good year would be hopefully just a few podiums, but main thing is as long as I learn as much as I can throughout the year, I'll be happy.
What's the biggest challenge, do you think, from moving from karting into car racing?
Biggest challenge? It's a hard question now.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can we cut this bit out? Or
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry. If you've been silent for a little bit, we can read it.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
fine. Yeah, don't panic.
I don't know. The hardest thing I'd say is probably just getting used to the speed and everyone around you, because there's a lot more different here in car racing, whereas where you might hit someone in karting or rub bumpers, it'll have little effects, whereas in here, little effects have big consequences.
Yeah.
Brandon Templeton there. Brandon was rapid at Silverstone. He was fighting up for the top 5 and some of the races there. Unfortunately, yesterday, qualifying in the race didn't show the pace he maybe had last time out, but we know that Fox Motorsport car can be at the front. We saw it with Liam McNeely. What can Brandon do in this race to move forward?
Well, it's completely wet now, so everything's changed again. I think he's just got to find that bit more pace that he had. To be fair to him, his rads got filled up with grass in the battle yesterday, so I think that made it look worse than it was. I think he's got the pace, it will come through. I mean, his helmet's one of the coolest on the grid, so
absolutely,
gives you at least half a second.
Well, we'll see how Brandon Templeton gets on around the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit, but why don't we have a look at the circuit in a bit more detail in a moment. We're going to have a track guide and then also run you through an onboard lap onboard Alicia palmowski, but first the track guide with Lewis McGlade.
So then to Donington Park on the Leicestershire-Derbyshire border. Of course, some of the most fantastic corners in British motorsport. Redgate, the run down the Craner curves, up through the old hairpin, overtaking opportunities at McLean's and Coppice, and that little back stretch down towards the Fogarty S, and then into the tight hairpin at the Melbourne hairpin. Of course, that final turn at Goddard's also is an excellent overtaking opportunity, back onto the Wheatcroft Straight and down towards turn 1 at Redgate. One of the most notable features around this circuit is, of course, the elevation over the 2.5 miles, around about 4 kilometres around the circuit. It sees 35.8 metres of elevation, most notably down at the old hairpin as we climb back up the hill around the 12 turns. So much great racing can happen here at Donington Park.
Let's ride on board with Alicia palmowski in her bright yellow Elite Motorsport GB4 car. First corner, Redgate coming up. Open up the entry by using all of the pit entry on the left-hand side and then nip back to the apex in the middle of the corner. Watch out for oversteer on the exit and stay on the red and white curves. Track limits is going to be important in both qualifying and the races. The right-hander of Hollywood leads into the downhill fast left-hander of the Craner curves. Stay left to open up the full commitment old hairpin. Bit of curb on the entry, watch out for track limits again on the exit. We're now headed back uphill through Schwantz, opening up the corner, just trying to reduce any scrubbing. And again, stay left to open up McLean's. Off camber and drops away at the exit. The car can easily go light and force you wide. Next up, Coppice. Again, stay left, use the curb on the inside, completely blind on entry. You have to commit to the corner before you can see where you're going. Now we're on the exhibition straight. A moment to breathe and think about the braking point for Fogarty S's coming up next. Over to the right-hand side, use a little bit of curb on the right to open up the left. Quickly left, quickly right. Watch out for the bumps through the middle of the right-hander. It can throw you off if you hit those incorrectly. Now into the final sector, 2 hairpins. The first, the right-hander of the Melbourne Loop. Braking late and deep, getting a late apex for good traction out of this corner, all of the road on the exit once again. 1 corner to go now, Goddard's. Opening up the corner, staying all the way to the right-hand side, turning in fairly early to make sure you hook the curb on the inside as Alicia does there to get good rotation in the middle of the corner and then concentrate on good traction for the exit. That is a lap of the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. We've made our way onto the assembly area in the final build-up towards round 8 of the GB4 Championship, and we've got a familiar face, but not to the GB4 Championship. Noah Ping, GB3 driver for Arden VRD. What are you doing here?
Yeah, I'm here supporting Leon Wilson and the Arden team here in GB4. It's a wet one out today, so it should be good. It should be interesting. We know these guys can race in the wet, so it'll be good fun, yeah.
And the Ping name is you're not familiar with the GB4 cars, but the Ping name is. Your brother Zach raced with us a few times last year.
Yeah,
what's Zach been up to recently?
Yeah, he's going to college. He's going to go start this next semester, and he's just been hanging out at home, spending time with his buddies, and getting ready to start his career at Ole Miss.
Amazing. Yeah, well, Noah, thanks very much for having a quick chat. Well, good luck to Leon Wilson. I'm sure your words of wisdom will help him in this race. Of course, with Max Marzorati, Noah pointed out it is quite wet out there. This is the first time the drivers have run slicks, well, at least at this stage of the weekend. So a new opportunity for the drivers. Some drivers will be looking forward to this, some drivers potentially less. So, you know, you have to drive these cars differently in wet conditions, don't you?
Yeah, you do. You just have an overall lack of grip. So, you know, the wet tyre itself, you can see it's different to the slick. It's got these treads in it, and that's to cut through the water to just try and give them that little bit to help them. So you do have to drive it a little bit differently. The lines are different. You're trying to find where the grip is, staying off where the rubber's been laid down before, which is quite hard to do at this point in the weekend.
And a lot of drivers who have done a lot of karting say that they get a good amount of experience driving in the wet, and you get a feel for how the kart works and where the grip is. And someone who's got a very, very a good karting career is starting second on the grid in that bright, or to that dark blue number 11, Marcus Luzio. His second fastest lap in qualifying put him second on the grid, so he's moved up a little bit. Marcus is going to have a good race. I'm looking forward to it. You know, you really have to feel the grip in the wet conditions, don't you, Max?
Yeah, it is much more feel-based. But again, to understand what that feel is, you need experience in it to understand, okay, this is how it should be feeling, or how it shouldn't be feeling. So it's just knowing that. And of course, if you've been to Donington before and you've been in the wet, you have a little bit more of a clue of where the puddles are going to start to build up, where that standing water is going to be.
It's going to be a good race. I'm looking forward to it. And we saw some close fighting between teammates yesterday. It was at one point almost the fight between teammates. We had the 2 Fox Motorsport cars of Megan Bruce and Brandon Templeton fighting against each other. We also had at one point a couple of other teammates. We had Chloe Grant and Harry Burgoyne Jr. Let's touch on that for a second. Chloe Grant's move definitely taken a step forward this weekend. She was right on the back of Harry Burgoyne Jr., who is our only second-year driver and doing a full season this season, second in the championship at the moment. That must have been a real encouragement for Chloe, but also good for the KMR team to have 3 of their drivers so close together.
Yeah, it really helps as well when you're that close together, the 3 of you. Some might be faster in some corners, some will be faster in others. You can all learn off each other to make that a step forward to catch Grand Force, you know, in this next race. So they will all hopefully be helping each other. Big points haul for the team again, so that will help them with the team's championship. And it'll be exciting to see what they can do now it's wet.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, why don't we talk about, we've got quite a few female drivers in this championship. We've got 3, Megan Bruce, Alicia palmowski and Chloe Grant. There's a prize for the highest placed GB4 driver who is a female this season, €30,000 going towards a season in F1 Academy should they choose to do that. But before they have to do that, they have to get to the highest position they can. And looks like the cars are about to go onto the grid, so we're ready to go racing for round 8 of the GB4 Championship. I'm looking forward to it. I'll hand over to Lewis McGlade, our lead commentator.
And so, once again then, to the Leicestershire-Derbyshire border. Of course, it is Donington Park for this fantastic championship. We started at Alton Park, then went to Silverstone for the weekend here at Donington Park. After this, we'll be heading to Snetterton. Snetterton 300 circuit, long layout there, longest basically of the season here. Then back to Silverstone, up to Donington Park for the penultimate weekend of the championship, and then running down to Brands Hatch to see who's going to be crowned champion. At the moment, with how things stand, looking here at Donington Park, it is going to be a potential record run for one Linus Grandford, looking for consecutive wins. He's won the last 4 races of the championship. If he wins today, things could be looking very good in his title race. Not going to be easy though in the tricky conditions around this tricky circuit. Of course, Donington Park's been a staple in British motorsport since 1931 when it opened. Overtaking opportunities down towards Redgate, the fantastic turn at the old hairpin, and all that run through the Fogarty S, down through the Melbourne Head to Goddard's. A lot of undulation around here, and it is extremely windy, which with the wind around the circuit could drive the circuit a little bit faster than others, but the fact that Leo might not see that being 12 turns around here are very challenging. Every one of them has their own unique characteristics. So as you can see, the circuit is dry. I am wisely informed by one of my many circuit trackside reporters. I'm told there is a drying line appearing. That it is not going dry. It's more of a less wet line around here. They will get 2 action laps in this race, as far as we've been told by race control. Be running around the circuit, and then they'll run around the circuit once more after that, and then head to their grid boxes. What will happen in that is we use ourselves 2 minutes of the race. So we can see the starting order here. It is, of course, an excellent pole position from Linus Grandfords once more. Marcus Lucio starting on the front row of the grid. And McCacken will be starting from 3rd position alongside Liam McNeely on the second row of the grid. McNeely on his return to the championship. Of Harrison from 5th position, the Elite Motorsports team, alongside his teammate Alicia Palmowski, who retired yesterday with the gear issue coming down into the chicane. Then we've got Leon Wilson in 7th position before we get 8th place. Boyne Jr. Chloe Grant will start from 9th, and Brandon Templeton from the 10th position for Fox Motorsport. Outside of the top 10 though, for 11th position, it is Callum Baxter and Megan Bruce. Megan Bruce actually showed some pretty decent form fight with her teammate Brandon Templeton. Before we get to the final few drivers on the grid, it's Dan Hickey in 13th position, Mayor Deanarine in 14th position, and the final position, it is Jack Taylor for Fortec starting from last. With Linus Grandford starting from the front, I did tell him yesterday, I was like, I bumped into him on the way out of the circuit. I said, by the way,
way that you're there's potential for you to take a record taking 5th victory. Obviously, Tom, who had it before at 4, and he said, that sounds cool. His team boss, Ollie Dutton, Piers, said, why are you telling that? And then he turned around and, in the last championship, I won 13 on the bounce. So, yeah, it's fine. It's easy.
Easy for some when you're a Grand Force driver. The Grand Force, as we know in the GB3 and 4 paddock, are very, very fast drivers, and would be interesting to see if he can emulate what he did in other series.
Certainly so. You can see how wet it is, Piers. Obviously, you've been out there and have tasted that wet cush in the commentary booth. I don't have to worry about any of that. And what's it like out there? How tricky is it? How windy is it out there?
It's actually less windy than it was yesterday. The wind has dropped. We had quite a strong tailwind down the 2 main straights yesterday into turn 1. It's still similar direction, but not quite as breezy as it was yesterday, which will probably mean that the circuit stays damp for quite a while. It's not as cold as it was at Silverstone, because Silverstone was absolutely freezing. But yeah, this circuit is going to stay wet for the duration of this race at least. And there's the odd spot of rain that keeps dropping just to keep the circuit topped up.
Certainly so. I mean, so I've been told by someone that there might be again, drying line's optimistic. Less wet line might be the correct term. Is that what you've seen out on the circuit?
Yeah, I mean, actually looking at the shot, we can see right now, actually, through the chicane, areas where the traffic kind of funnels down. So, for example, through the Fogger Siestas, as we just saw, potentially in the braking zones down to, this Melbourne Loop hairpin, and maybe through the middle of the old hairpin, places where all the drivers stay on the same line, you might get a slightly less wet line. But with the amount of rain we had overnight and the fact that there's, it's not a hugely long race. This race is going to be wet. Tyre pressures will still be a consideration. There'll be teams that will be thinking, right, I'll go a bit higher on tyre pressures to try and fire the tyres up a bit earlier and get a good start. And other teams will be going, well, we know it's going to be drier or less wet at the end of the race than the start, so they may have gone a bit lower. Looking forward to seeing how this race plays out and if Linus Granfors can take that magical 5th consecutive win. But he's going to be pushed hard, no doubt, and I'm keeping an eye on Marcus Lucio starting in 2nd place.
Is that who you think is going to push him the hardest? You think it's going to be Lucio? You don't think it's going to be McCacken, McNeely?
Oh, well, we know McCacken's quick in the wet as well. We saw that at Alton Park, but Lucio starting 2nd place. He's got the outside line, which is a legitimate overtaking opportunity around Redgate, especially in wet conditions. I'm looking forward to a good race. Lewis, I'll let you talk to the start.
Certainly so. So race number 8 in the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC, about to get underway with the race down towards Redgate, the first corner. We are underway. It's a horrific start from Lucio. I think there's a jump start as well in the mid-pack as we head up towards the first turn. It will be a solid lead, though, for Liam McNeely. Around the outside in that white and yellow highlighting motorsport machine, the number 49, McNeely, makes it through to the front, Piers. What an excellent start.
That was a great start, and unfortunately I think I jinxed Marcus Lucio because he barely even got off the line. But we've also seen contact as Leon Wilson has stopped after contact with one of the other drivers in the midfield, front right suspension damage, and now that is Finn Harrison Alicia palmowski going up the inside of Marcus Lucio. So Lucio's start is going from bad to worse.
Yeah, obviously some of these drivers that went well back in Silverstone and Alton Park, let's be honest, because it was wet in both, they could well be able to capitalise on that. Palmowski certainly is one of those. She goes well in these tricky conditions, looking to find her way past, but unfortunately can't find the dark blue, the number 11 car of Marcus Lucio, who probably, I think a lot of these drivers are surely just trying to find their feet at the moment, get used to the conditions at racing speed, and then build their way into it.
Yeah, actually, Lewis, I think we've made a mistake. I think actually that is Finn Harrison that's made his way through on Marcus Lucio, because Finn Harrison has gone back to his carbon black helmet that he had at the start of the season, which normally is what Alicia palmowski has exclusively. So unfortunately, it's palmowski behind Lucio, and Finn Harrison has actually made his way up a position there.
Certainly so. He moves back here, though, was you've got the 2 Fortec cars. Dan Hickey trying to stay around the outside of Jack Taylor, who's doing a good job. The yellow highlighted car of Jack Taylor in the Fortec cars, those white and reds. There is Marcus on your screen, dark blue, yellow highlight helmet. Again, solid start to the... there'll be that double-waved yellow at turn 1, courtesy of Liam Wilson being... which is a bit of a shame for Wilson. Obviously, the Yu Ping. Down there in 78. I didn't expect to see him this weekend.
Yeah, I know. Good to see Noah helping out his his team compatriot in the GB4 machinery, of course, Arden and VRD having a close relationship these days with showing drivers, and good to see that the more experienced drivers such as Noah Ping are able to lend a hand towards the up-and-coming drivers such as Leon Wilson. But unfortunately, sometimes racing incidents happen, and we saw a little bit of contact going into the run down to turn 1 on the first lap, which put Leon Wilson out. Glad to see that he's okay, but unfortunately that car will no longer be participating in this race. As also we're seeing a front wing change for the number 24 of Brandon Templeton. So potentially that was the contact that we saw with Leon Wilson, Lewis.
Yep, 2 + 2 equals, it probably was that indeed. Car's been sent off into the barrel, losing the front wing. Yeah, you can probably work them out yourself as the 2 Fortec cars go a bit further down the order for 10th position. Dan Hickey versus Taylor. Taylor's the one in the 50 on the left-hand side of your shot as we go down to the fog. Yes, look for Megan Bruce behind as well in that number 9 car, the white with sort of the orange and dark blue. Trying to get past Dan Hickey at the moment, who's just dropped back now to 11th position as there comes a move for the number 45 of Callum Baxter.
Yeah, good move from Baxter. Palmowski looks like is that an issue at the rear? Yeah, I think she's crabbing at the rear, Lewis. Do you want to have a quick look at that and see if you can see an issue with the right rear of Palmowski? And maybe she was involved in that contact down towards turn 1. Yeah, it looks like that right rear is not pointing in the direction it should be.
Yeah, but then again, we were wrong about that yesterday, so oh no, look at that.
Guaranteed,
oh my goodness, that is crabbing.
Yeah, no wonder she's dropping down the order. That tyre is angled both inwards and also pointing outwards, so it's got a... Oh yeah, you can see that rear suspension arm's actually bent, Lewis. Look at the back of the car.
But... So where would that have happened? Could that have happened potentially going down through the Fokker TS in the chicane, or was there some...
potentially, but I think she might have been in and around that that group that had the contact with Dan. Oh my God! Look at this, Palmowski going sideways through Schwantz curve, which is barely even a corner normally. Oh, that was Starkey's name, Schwantz, and fighting the car very, very hard. She's doing very well to keep it on the road, but I think she was in that gap. In that gaggle of cars that ended up with Leon Wilson coming off worse, so potentially she had a hit there, or alternatively maybe she did go wide at the Fogger TSs once again and just run over those sausage curves, which can damage the floor of the car. But she'll soldier on. It shows great determination from her to continue driving with what is very much a wounded car.
Certainly so, but I don't think she's getting any major points from this, Piers. That's the problem, is that the struggles for the Elite Motorsports car. I mean, it's such a shame. Yes, again, it was suspension failure yesterday, but it wasn't. It sounded like it was a gear selection issue. Couldn't get out of 6th gear on the brakes. But there we go. Look at the race start. I thought it was a jump start, but I think it's actually just a very good one from you.
Yeah, okay, so Palmowski on the right-hand side of shot in the yellow car. Yeah, so initial contact with Finn Harrison, which then pushed Leon Wilson to the left-hand side of circuit, right-hand side of shot, which then was into the side of Palmowski. But it seems like, yeah, that would be it. That would be why Palmowski has that damage on the car. So it was a chain of events actually caused by her teammate, Finn Harrison, jolting to the left-hand side, potentially unsighted, not knowing that Leon Wilson was alongside. And unfortunately, Finn Harrison's teammate, Alicia Palmowski's come off worse. She's still circulating. Lap times still not the best for Palmowski. We still see her falling down the order. I'll keep you updated on that. But yeah, really disappointing. Another bitter blow. Disappointing for Palmowski after what is a difficult testing and qualifying and first race, as we heard from her just before the race started.
I mean, the way that car is sliding, going through the Craner curves, it's absolutely crazy.
Front of the field.
I don't know how she can even keep control of that car.
Yeah, sorry, just the front of the field. It's McNeely from McCacken from Burgoyne from Granfers. Has Granfers been off?
No, I think he's just struggling for pace at the moment. I don't think he's quite got the speed. No, he dropped back a little bit on the race start, but then hasn't. Maybe there's a tyre pressure. You were saying about tyre pressures earlier on in the race. Maybe they've not got the tyre pressures right in that car. Maybe he doesn't have the confidence in these conditions. We have seen him win in the wet before, of course, at Alton Park. As here comes Luke defending to try and keep Baxter behind. Of course, you can see the battle happening back there. Lucio runs straight out wide, and he's going to hand 6th position straight over to Callum Baxter. Excellent move from Baxter once again at the Melbourne hairpin.
Yeah, Callum Baxter's got great pace in this race, hasn't he? He's fighting his way through, made his way past Alicia palmowski, now past Marcus Lucio. Clearly that GBR car is working well as we cut back to Linus Granfors in fourth place at the moment, 4 seconds back nearly from the leaders. So it's going to be hard pushed to find 4 seconds back on the leaders in the remaining 8 minutes and 50 seconds to get that 5th consecutive win. But Liam McNeely, a second-year driver, using that experience to get away from the line well, and then Brandon McCacken, who we saw was excellent in the wet conditions at Alton Park, pushing hard, less than a second, the gap between first and second at the moment at the front of the field. We'll cut back to that at some point as we keep an eye on this battle and the soaring away on the wheel of Alicia palmowski. She still fights that car.
Yeah, obviously we are 4 laps complete in this race. 8 minutes and 20 seconds left to go. More slides come palmowski in the 21 Elite Motorsports car. She's just trying to keep that car basically on the road. And I've got to say, doing an incredible job to keep the lap times where they are for palmowski. I mean, yeah, sure, you're running 3 seconds a lap slower, 2.5, 3 seconds a lap slower than the race leaders. But even being in that, even being able to keep that car on the road, I've always said suspension damage, you know, it causes a bit of understeer and instability on that side. Rear suspension damage, and the car's dancing all over the place. It's hard to predict. It's really difficult to drive. She is doing an excellent job whilst we're getting race lead. McNeely looking to return to the GB4 Championship with a race victory. How incredible would that be?
That would be a great story for McNeely to come back, you know, having graduated from the GB4 Championship last season, came 3rd in the championship, had a great season, but now being under pressure from a championship newbie in the form of Brandon McCacken, but also our only other second-year driver, Harry Burgoyne Jr., right behind him too. And let's have a look at a lovely slow-mo through the Fogarty S's. You can see how hard the cars are working. You can see how much the drivers dance these cars in these conditions, you know, from one side to the other. And it's interesting to see the different lines they're taking through there, you know, and rattling those curbs. Some of the drivers choosing to go a bit tighter, using a bit more curb, and some of the drivers going wide. Oh, we've had a change for the lead. As we were looking at that lovely slow-mo, Brandon McCacken's made his way past Liam McNeely.
Yeah, Brandon McCacken looking for his first victory in GB4. Here is a look at the replay. So it's at the top of the hill, coming down the Craner curves, the Redgate sweepers, as there is McCacken making a move. That is absolutely phenomenal.
That's a textbook wet weather pass here at Donington Park. It was all done on the exit of Redgate, the first corner. McCacken got a good exit and allowed himself to get an overlap on the inside going down Hollywood, and then on the outside going down the Craner curves, which in the wet often offers a lot more grip than the slippery, slick racing line. But it looks like McNeely's definitely fighting that car a lot more than the 2 KMR Sport drivers around him. In Liam McNeely in that white and yellow highlighted number 49 Fox Motorsport car, the 2 KMR Sports in the blue and grey. That car we're looking at right now is Harry Burgoyne Jr. A reminder, he is 2nd in the championship as it stands, our only second-year driver. So he's going to be using that experience to try and get past his sort of race mate from last year.
And of course, do remember it is a 30-point margin in the championship at the moment between Harry Burgoyne Jr. and Granfors, who is running a position behind. So it will be an advantage Harry Burgoyne Jr., but he wants a little bit more. As Marcus Lucio now in the battle with Chloe Grant, 7th position. This is the fight for Marcus Lucio in the dark blue car at the head of this. Then the grey and blue of Chloe Grant looking to the insiders. Oh my goodness! Is that Harry Burgoyne Jr. or Brandon McCacken?
No, it's Burgoyne Jr. has gone off in the exit of turn 1, so potentially trying to go around the outside of Liam McNeely. We didn't see that on camera, and that's allowed Finn Harrison and Linus Granfors off. Lewis, you were just chatting about the fact that the gap at the front of the championship between Granfors and Burgoyne would be coming down, but unfortunately Burgoyne going off has allowed Granfors and Harrison through, so that's further extending the lead of the championship for Linus Granfors, and actually a good drive from Finn Harrison so far in this race, setting some good lap times and keeping the pressure on Granfors, our championship leader.
Yeah, indeed, doing, I mean, you've got to say, obviously, we need to see that one on replay as to what happened to Harry Burgoyne Jr., but maybe just pushing a little bit too hard at a point, maybe where he didn't need to. Maybe McNeely, there was a bit of contact. Again, we just do not know, but it was down at Redgate where Harry Burgoyne Jr. went off. So easy in these conditions to run wide. It's most likely what it was, but the issue is now not only behind Granfors, but is behind Harrison as well. Needs to get on with this immediately. Only 4 minutes and 20 seconds left to go in this race. It's only going to be about 3 laps as there comes the first
of those moves. It's straight down the inside of Harrison. He's going to go. Not able to complete that move. The yellow car of Finn Harrison able to keep Harry Burgoyne Jr. in the grey and blue behind.
Yeah, Harrison is putting up a valiant defence, but I expect Burgoyne Jr. to make his way through eventually, because Burgoyne Jr. on that previous lap set the fastest lap of the race, and a robust move, but I think just about fair from Harry Burgoyne Jr. You can see Harrison's not happy about that, but Burgoyne has made his way back through into, that will be 4th place, and we've still got further fighting back down the field as Palmowski is trying to hold off. Is that Brandon Templeton? No, that's not. That's Megan Bruce.
No. Yeah, it's Megan Bruce and Dan Hickey. So obviously Palmowski on the left-hand side of your screen in the 21, the yellow car, still crabbing around this circuit at the inside of Redgate, trying to keep Megan Bruce behind. But this is going to be very sketchy indeed. Very wet on the run down the hill as they'll all slip and slide their way down. Dan Hickey sat behind in the 17, the red and white car, thinking of a way past once again straight around the outside. What car control are we seeing from Palmowski? I know she's running down the order, but this is an incredible drive from her, and what is a very tricky car to drive with the damage.
Watch her hands as we come through here. She's actually turning right through the left-hander of Schwantz through there, because the car is so bent. So she's basically having to slide the car through the whole circuit. So brilliant car control. As we see Hickey trying to go around the outside, and McLean's on Megan Bruce. This is a great battle.
Up towards Coppice now. Dan Hickey's going to get brave, sends it straight around the outside. Could we see a mega move here? What an incredible move that is from Dan Hickey in the white and red to send it straight around the outside of Megan Bruce there, taking advantage of the opportunity as Palmowski was slowing the pack down. That is brilliant racing between the pair of them. Palmowski there at the foreground shot, once again sliding her way through the chicane. Honestly, I've seen some good car control in GB4 in the last couple of years, Piers, but this is right up there with some of the absolute best car control that we've ever seen. This car is so tricky to drive, and not only when you account for the damage, if it was dry, it'd be pretty hard. In these conditions, it's doubly so, as here comes Hickey to the outside into the final corner.
Yeah, it's a great move from Hickey, and he's trying to run the outside once again. Of course, the outside manoeuvre and the wet conditions is often more favoured compared to dry conditions, but Hickey making it work nonetheless and getting a good drive out of Goddard's, coming over the start-finish line just on the outside. I think Palmowski's probably going to relinquish this position, although I say that, she's trying to fight on the inside. Fair play to Palmowski for fighting positions, even with a hobbled car, but Hickey makes his way through. Great racecraft from Dan Hickey, and what is his first full season in Slicks and Wings racing. We heard from him in the pre-race build-up, and a good drive from him so far. We're cutting back to our lead as the gap between first and second has extended enormously as we watch Liam McNeely slide his way through Coppice corner.
Yeah, indeed. Brandon McCacken is flying at the moment. Again, said before, he's looking for a first victory, which, to be fair, considering he's basically taking this on a round-to-round basis. He's on the penultimate lap. He's leading over McNeely, an experienced driver, by nearly 4 seconds. It's starting to run away. This is a very impressive drive from McCacken. Here's the top two in the championship, then going wheel to wheel. Let's see if Harry Burgoyne Jr. can work his way past. The defensive line coming in from Linus Granfors in the red and white, over to the left-hand side of your shot in that number 16. Harry Burgoyne Jr. second in the championship, the outside as they work their way down towards the Melbourne hairpin. This is the penultimate lap of the race. They'll be going on to the final one in just a few moments' time, but Harry Burgoyne Jr.'s got to do the hard work at the final turn.
Yeah, here we go. This is a battle for the championship. I'm looking forward to this one. I'm hoping it goes for the remainder of the race. Burgoyne has better pace at this stage in the race. He's closed that gap to Granfors. He still has, or had, the fastest lap until McCacken took it a lap ago. And he's right in the slipstream now. Is he going to look inside or outside? Outside he goes. This is a potential move all the way around the outside, or is he going to look for the cutback? Cutback it is, but Granfors is wise to it.
I kept saying McCacken for his first victory. I know what I meant, but it's fine. It's not his first. We need to win back in Norton Park. But either way, Harry Burgoyne Jr. Is involved in this battle. Heading down the hill with Linus Granfors side by side for the old hairpin. That one's not going to work. Big slide there from Harry Burgoyne Jr. as he'll try and get up and under, up the hill towards McLean's. They head their way through Starkeys up towards the Schwantz curve. Linus Granfors doing an epic job to fend off his main rival in this championship as they're all checking out into the distance. This is an epic battle for, again, in the title race.
And look in the back of shot, the yellow car, number 38 of Finn Harrison, is licking his lips thinking, I can get involved here and potentially take a podium if these two get involved with each other and I sweep my way through. This is going to be a great fight on the final couple of laps of the race. Granfors doing an excellent job, and what is clearly he's struggling with that car. You can see his hands soaring away at the wheel as we go through the different corners, and Burgoyne Jr. has more grip at this stage, but Granfors placing the car exactly where he needs to make it as hard as possible for Burgoyne to make a way through.
Well, into the final section then for the second time in his GB4 career. It is Brandon McCacken to come through the final turn and take the checkered flag as a winner. Excellent drive from Brandon McCacken, leading by a comfortable margin over the likes behind of McNeely. There is a defensive line coming in, and there is the move. So Linus Granfors is going to drop back an extra position. It is going to be Harry Burgoyne Jr. across the line in third, and then Finn Harrison to take fourth position. That's an epic drive as Linus Granfors drops back the single one. Again, very, very impressive indeed. But there is your race winner. Brandon McCacken taking his fourth podium. I was more thinking of his teammate, by the way, earlier when I was thinking of first victories, because, of course, Harry Burgoyne Jr. still hasn't won. But Brandon McCacken did the second race of the season. Obviously took both pole positions back in the first round of the championship at Alton Park. Maybe a couple of struggles back in Silverstone. He is back. That is epic. Podium yesterday with a second place finish. Victory today, meaning he is the highest point scorer so far this weekend, because Linus Granfors did win earlier on in the weekend just yesterday, but then dropping back down the order today with just a fifth place finish. That'll be very, very, very disappointing for Linus Granfors, I'm afraid. Obviously, there again, I was talking yesterday about the expectation that, maybe he was going to go and break the record. I'm sure Ollie don't blame me for bringing it up to him, but it's fine. It's fine. Tricky conditions. Maybe the tyre pressure's not quite being right. Maybe the confidence not quite being in the window, but it just didn't quite work out. Shout out to Liam McNeely. What an epic return to GB4. A couple of slides as well from him as he works his way down towards the final turn and back into the pit lane. Of course, McNeely was a full-time driver last year, did the entirety of the season before moving on to other things in the US this year. He did finish third in the championship last year, obviously with a couple of victories, both of them in final races. One was in race 4, which was around here at Donington Park the first time I came here, and then one was in Alton Park, but had a big streak of podiums. I think it was 7 podiums did McNeely have last year in a row, and again continuing on form by grabbing more podiums here. They'll work their way down into Parc Fermé, and once more Brandon McCacken will climb out of the car as a race winner, and so well deserved as well. Again, this is a driver that we're seeing on a round by round basis. We're not 100% sure as to how long we'll see McCacken in GB4. As is always the thing, it's budget this and budget that. But he is doing a fantastic job to impress his sponsors, and we just hope that we can keep seeing him in GB4, because he is an epic talent, as we are seeing. And to be fair, the more confidence he's building throughout the season, if he is able to do more, maybe he is going to be in contention for the championship. I'm sure that will definitely keep him in. There is McNeely out of the car after another podium. Maybe he'll be eyeing up a victory later on this afternoon when we go racing for the third race. Harry Burgoyne Jr., of course, second in the championship. Third place there is Tom Mills, champion of last year. Gives a little bit of a hand to McCacken. Got to say, for Harry Burgoyne Jr., decent points taken out of Linus Granfors there. I think it'll be to the tune. I think it'll only be 5 or so points, but it's a decent margin to start cutting it down instantly into the debrief. Harry Burgoyne Jr. having a little bit of a chat with Tom Mills, who definitely knows how to get a race win done round here, whilst picking his way around. Harry Burgoyne Jr. still yet to win in GB4, weirdly enough, as we'll head down to Brandon McCacken, our race winner.
Brandon, a great drive. Just sum up your feelings right now.
Amazing. What a feeling. Like, just at the end there, when I was just pulling away and the car was comfortable underneath me. Best feeling of my life. What a day. I'm having the time of my life in this championship. Like, I love it. Yeah, just a huge thank you to my sponsors, everyone that helped got me here, like all the hard work from my dad. It's just it makes it feel so much better when you're having to fight the bit to be here. And yeah, I don't know, just thanks to the team as well. The car was mega.
You've all worked so hard to be here, and surely, after yesterday's good result and then a win today, you must be so over the moon.
Yeah, over the moon. Just so happy. Like, there's a lot of pressure because you're coming in, you don't know if you're going to be, this could be my last day in a Slicks and Wings car, I don't know. So you're just going out, giving it all you can, and you just can't let the pressure get to you. Just have to keep cool and enjoy yourself. I definitely enjoyed that one anyway.
You clearly look comfortable in the wet conditions, of course, taking a win at Alton Park earlier on the year. Surely that rallycross experience is coming in handy?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's just, yeah, when you're used to a car moving underneath you in the gravel and used to, you know, just fighting up against it, driving against quicker cars, all that sort of stuff, you just learn that car control. That's car control is why I'm quick in the wet.
Brandon, congratulations, second win of the championship, and we'll see how you get on later on.
Cheers, thank you.
Right, let's grab a word with our second place driver, Liam McNeely. Liam, a returning driver. Liam, second again. So close, but so far.
Yeah, got a great start, fourth to first before the first corner, and yeah, we just struggled from, like a bit early on. I was just had way too much oversteer, so Brandon drove a great race, and fair play to him, but a bit disappointing.
You got in the lead and nearly held it for the first half of the race, but it could visibly see you were fighting that car out there. Is that just a little bit on the setup, and you're going to work on that for later on?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we thought it was going to be a bit wetter than it first was. So that's we'll learn from that, and if it's wet later on, that's something that we'll find out. Sort out.
Reverse grid coming up, of course. You'll be starting further down the back of the grid. What can you do from there in wet conditions like this?
Yeah, I think anything can happen. There might be a few safety cars involved, so a bunch to field up. We'll see what we can do, but anything can happen.
Anything can happen. We'll let you celebrate your second place with the team before we grab a word with Harry Burgoyne Jr. who's just over here. Harry Burgoyne, of course, a second-year driver, also racing for the KMR Sport team. Harry, that was a busy race for you.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of messed up a bit, but as what it is, it's racing. Managed to get a really good start, got up to like fourth, and then, or was it third? Possibly third, and then just tried to keep catching, and then I made a mistake, locked up, and then went straight on in the gravel. Managed to get past Finlay Harrison again at the last corner, and then push on to Grand Fours at the end.
Yeah, unfortunately, we were looking at a replay when, and then we came back from the replay, and we saw you coming back on the circuit. You mentioned a little lock-up. Were you trying to go for a move on the outside?
No, I mean, I was just following, and then I just managed to grab a front right, and then just went straight on. But
so easily done in conditions like this, but also it must have been really important for you to get past Linus, of course, your direct championship rival, and then also put a car between yourself and him, as Finn Harrison got past him on the last corner as well.
Yeah, I mean, to be aggressive with the moves that you were doing, because in this conditions you can come back very easily, because you can make one mistake on an exit and wheel spin, they can come straight back up your inside, so you need to be kind of aggressive in these kind of racing conditions.
Harry, thank you very much for chatting to us. I'll let you go and celebrate on the podium with your team. We're going to run through the podium in just a moment. Lewis McGlade is going to... actually, before we do, let's get a bit of the emotion from the McCacken family.
That's what it's all about, boys. A man with no money can go racing and win. That's what it's all about. I had to get Elena money off him yesterday to buy me dinner in there.
Amazing. Great to see the emotion. We'll let you guys celebrate, and I'll let Lewis McGlade walk you through the podium ceremony.
Again, absolutely epic stuff, and lovely to see the McCackens there. Very, very happy indeed. Again, well-deserved victory there for Brandon McCacken over McNeely and Harry Burgoyne Jr. Some big gaps on the field, as is kind of expected, because of the tricky nature of driving around here in these conditions. It's not an easy circuit at the best of times, but when it's wet, it does get very tricky indeed. This track surface gets very, very slippery. We've already seen one champion. There's another one. We've seen Tom Mills. There's Nicholas Taylor, the 2022 champion, of course. Now, just taking photographs all the way around. He's enjoying taking his photographs as well. Of course, through the lens, I think is on Instagram and stuff. He's taking photographs of loads of drivers, but still working quite closely with Fortec. But I think he's obviously built a decent relationship with the KMR Sport bunch, because I know he's been quite close with Tom Mills, the 2 series champions. As we'll see them jump onto the podium then. The first driver to do so, one of those KMR Sport drivers, is Harry Burgoyne Jr. On to third position onto the podium, picking up yet another one for him, which will be very solid. He's looking very strong this year comparatively. Liam McNeely returning to the championship just for this round, of course, into second position, and for the second time this season it is Brandon McCacken up to the top step of the podium, and so well deserved. What an epic drive from him, and again, we really do hope we see more of him in the championship. We will be seeing him a little bit in the afternoon, and hey, I'm pretty sure if he can grab himself a podium or maybe even a victory in that one, then surely someone will drag him through the 2024 campaign here in GB4. But for now, it is an epic victory for Brandon McCacken, who I thought didn't want to be that guy, but I thought he might have dropped off a little bit at Silverstone, and maybe we'd struggle to see the real Brandon McCacken back that we saw at Alton Park. The answer to that question is absolutely not. When you're given the tricky conditions in a circuit like this, that is exactly what you get. We'll take a look, though, at highlights from the race. Highlights from round number 8 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. Marcus Lucio from the front row of the grid, unable to really get going, and it was Liam McNeely to sweep around the outside of Fox Motorsports and take the lead down into the first corner. Brandon McCacken would dive down the inside. Meanwhile, there was contact behind. We'd see Alicia Palmowski having her issues, Liam Wilson having his issues, Brandon Templeton also getting involved in that somewhat as well. The Essex section down the hill towards the old hairpin, we'll see a couple of switches with Marcus Lucio dropping back behind Finn Harrison, and unfortunate issues for Palmowski coming a cropper here. Callum Baxter going straight up down the inside, of course, for the up and under at the Melbourne hairpin, and then side by side for the race lead. Epic battle here between Brandon McCacken and McNeely, and it was Brandon McCacken to take over the race lead with that one there. Harry Burgoyne Jr. starting to apply the pressure to the back of McNeely, who was starting to feel it himself with a couple of slips and slides. In fact, that one there, he'd go straight on at Redgate at the first turn, would cost himself a couple of positions, but he would return into these battles. We were seeing excellent car control, though, from Alicia Palmowski, keeping Megan Priest and Dan Hickey behind just towards the back end of the top 10, doing everything she could to keep that car on the road, despite the damage that it dealt with. Brandon McCacken would come through the final corner to take victory for the second time in his GB4 career, ahead of McNeely and Burgoyne. How tricky can it get in conditions like this to see a win like that? Epic stuff, and by a fair margin as well. 5.5 seconds Brandon McCacken took that victory over Liam McNeely. Harry Burgoyne Jr. Was able to bounce back despite that mistake down into Redgate to come back into third position. Finn Harrison passing Granfalls on the final lap of the race as well. Callum Baxter in 6th position with Chloe Grant in 7th. Taylor, Lucio and Palmowski rounding out the top 10. The fact that Alicia Palmowski is still 10th in that race just shows how good a drive that was. Epic stuff. 11th position Megan Bruce, Dean Areen in 12th, with Dan Hickey and Brandon Templeton rounding out the finishes. An unfortunate retirement for Liam Wilson, the Arden Motorsports car, down into that first turn, which was so difficult for them to deal with. Fastest lap to the driver on the right, of course, it was Brandon McCacken. What does that do, though, in the championship? That's the big question, because as things do close up a little bit towards the front, not by much, it's just a little 5-point squeeze, but still Harry Burgoyne Jr. closing up by 5 points on Linus Granfalls, so the gap now 25, which is, so it's pretty solid. It's definitely reachable. Brandon McCacken in 3rd position in the championship, working his way up there, only 10 points behind Harry. Drives like that, maybe he'll be taking over 2nd position. Alicia Palmowski with some issues here at Donington Park, just 4th position, with Brandon Templeton in 5th. Callum Baxter, joint 5th position in the championship, both on 105 points, with Marcus Lucio down in 7th. Really wanting to capitalise more on that race. Big shame to see him drop down the order, but just 7th position in the standings for him. Chloe Grant in 8th, Finn Harrison in 9th, and Leon Wilson, no points in that race, drops down to 10th in the standings. Either way, we've got another race to deal with later on in the day, and we've got lots of drivers to talk to as well. Let's head down to the paddock area and see what's going on.
Thanks for giving us the rundown in the championship there, Lewis. Down here once again with Callum Baxter. I can always rely on the Graham Brunton Racing boys to come and have a chat with us after race. Callum, we'll start with you once again. Great race from yourself. You're clearly very comfortable in these wet conditions. Great, result at the start of the season in the wet, and then once again in that race, 6th place.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun out there. I had a really good start, went from 11th to 6th in the first couple laps, and then after that it was just about pulling away from the cars behind, and unfortunately wasn't able to catch any of the cars ahead of me, but yeah, it was a lot of fun and I really enjoyed it.
One more race to come today, potentially still wet conditions. I'm sure you're looking forward to that.
Yeah, I am, and I think I'll be starting around 8th again, mid-pack, so hopefully I can make my way up in that race, and yeah.
Top 5 would be a great result. Well, we'll let you go and prepare for that one as we bring in your teammate, Mayor Dionarine. Mayor, tricky conditions out there, slimy. We spoke to Liam McNeely, who finished 2nd. He said that the track was actually a bit drier than he was expecting. Did you find the same?
Yeah, the track was drying in a couple spots. I had a little bit of an off, so I was still getting back into the swing of things. But I think later on in the race, I got more comfortable with the car and started noticing some dry patches and tried using them, but it didn't go my way in the race, but my teammate did really well. So.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'll be able to have a look and see, Callum had a great race. You can see what lines he take. And of course, the whole point of being here is learn and build as a driver. And the fact that, you've got Callum alongside you who's doing a good job in those conditions, I'm sure you'll be able to move up and get close to him in the next one.
Yeah, he's a really good driver. It's definitely a good learning experience to drive alongside him and compare the data. So we'll look at that and see where I can improve.
Mayor, thank you very much for chatting to us. We'll let you go and celebrate with the rest of the team. We're hoping to grab a word with some more drivers, but at the moment we haven't got any. So I'll bring in Max Marzorati. Max again. Max, come in this side just because I'll not be able to hear you otherwise. Max, that was a dramatic race. The wet conditions always mix things up a little bit. It's getting tight at the front of the field in the championship fight. The gap closing between Burgoyne and Granfors, and another excellent win for Brandon McCacken.
Really amazing win from Brandon there, and you could actually see his Formula Ford experience coming into play here. The way he was driving that car, flicking the rear out, getting on the power, amazing to watch. It looked on the edge. It probably was on the edge.
Yeah.
So really great for him to use that experience here. Good drive from Harry to make sure more points, and a critical move on Granfors there at the end after his mistake. He came back. Good race there again. Great to watch from our point of view, them battling for that couple laps. Obviously great race for Graham Brunham Racing as well with Callum, and that great drive from 11 to 6.
Great drive from him, and of course we were talking about quite a lot of the good things that happened in that race. Unfortunately, one of the not so good things was we saw that contact at the start of the race, and we're going to grab a word with Leon Wilson because Leon unfortunately didn't finish that race. Max, you'll just move out of the way just to let Leon in. Leon, really unfortunate that time. We saw contact at the first corner, unfortunately breaking your front suspension. You couldn't continue on. Just put us in from your perspective what happened.
Yeah, well, we had a good start, and then there was just an incident I couldn't avoid, and then just put us out of the race.
Yeah, really disappointing. We caught up with Noah Ping just before the race as you were getting prepared, and Noah's racing in the GB3 Championship. We'll see him out next weekend at Spa, so if anyone's around next weekend and wants to watch, then please tune in. But must be great to have someone like Noah, in your corner and giving you the experience and a bit of guidance.
Yeah, it always helps having a driver who's done it, so just to give more experience and help in the car that he's driven, so just helps out with us getting up to pace quicker.
One more race this weekend, reverse grid coming up. What's Noah going to be saying to you? What are you going to be trying to do in that race?
Just go for the win. Hopefully it stays wet for us because we're really on the pace in the wet. So that's what we were hoping for today. But obviously it was an incident which we couldn't avoid, and then it went well after. But we're just going to go look through it all and get ready for the race after.
Leon, thank you very much. We'll go and let you work with the team to fix your car and get ready for the race coming up this afternoon. I'll bring Max in one more time. Max, I think that's about all the drivers we're going to get a chance to chat to for now. We've got another race coming up later on. It's going to be a good one if it stays wet like it is now.
Yeah, I think shout out to palmowski there because her car was literally bent like that for the entire race, but she did a really great job. I mean, hanging out around the outside of Craners with a car like that, it's really impressive. So it'll be interesting to see what she can do in the next race now once that car is straightened up again.
Brilliant. Well, Max, you'll be joining us later on again. Hopefully everyone watching at home, you'll be joining us for the final race of the weekend, the reverse grid race, round 9 of the championship. It's going to be a good one. Make sure you keep an eye out on the MSV TV YouTube channel to see when the stream is live, and we'll catch you then.